Francis Gallagher into the studio. He of the New Newry Hospital Trust, Forum, not Trust, the New Newry Hospital Forum. And we're going to, first of all, we'll welcome the people. Nice to have you with us. I'm Rowan Hand, my joy to be your host for the next 3 hours. And thank you for joining us. Francis is here because you're very, very keen to make sure that the right thing happens, Francis, in relation to the stroke unit at Daisy Hill Hospital. But maybe you would start by telling us something of the provenance of the New Newry Hospital Forum.
Okay. The forum, Rowan, was formed recently in response to the Trust's proposals and there seems to be decision that has been made to centralise the stroke unit at Daisy Hill to Craigavon. So in response to that, you know, I decided to call a public meeting, and some people came to that meeting, and out of that meeting then we formed this group, and we have a set of aims with the group now. So we have.
Yeah. What's familiar to me is not the forum, but the Save Our Stroke Unit.
Yes, yes.
That's the title that comes
Yes.
at me all the time.
Yes. Yeah.
But is the forum the brains behind the loud banner?
The forum really, we have longer term aim and then a short term. The short term goal really is to try and encourage people, well, to come out on the 28th of March to support the rally and to keep the stroke unit at Daisy Hill. And so the short-term goal would be to keep the stroke services, the excellent stroke services at Daisy Hill, and to reclaim any other services that have been taken away from Daisy Hill, maybe administrative services, other services. Those would be the short-term aims.
Why, Francis, does the adage come to mind? Closing the stable door after the horse has bolted. Are you maybe too late?
No, absolutely not, Rowan. There's still time to get this decision rescinded. If people come out on the 28th and show their massive support for Daisy Hill and for the stroke unit, it's then up to the politicians then to the people will have spoken then, and one would like to think that would be listened to. So if it isn't, if the voice of the people isn't listened to, well then that raises serious issues of accountability within our political institutions, and so one would hope that it would have some effect.
It might be said by those who want the move to occur that the voice of the people is heard through their elected representatives, and out of the body of elected representatives comes the health minister, Wells, who has made the decision, and he would probably argue that democracy is at work in allowing him to make decisions on behalf of the people, and also the political genre of our area, our own politicians here in Newry and Mourne, in Newry. How did the horse run away from them in the first place? Could they not have worked harder at that time to stop it being moved?
I think, Ronan, I represent just my own opinions in this, not those of the members of the group. But my opinion is that it shows the great need there is for political reform within our institutions, because the fact that you had to get over 20,000 people to come out in Downpatrick to show that they wanted to keep the A&E services and other services Downpatrick shows that there is a huge lack of accountability within our political institutions at Stormont, because people shouldn't have to do that. If the representative democratic system was working the way it should be working, as you say, well then the normal processes should take place. The politicians make representations to the head of the different departments, the health, Department of Health, etc., and then the wishes of the people then would be implemented. So that is one of the main issues to do with the hospital case at this stage, is the whole issue of political reform that's needed.
Have you managed to do the business at the Down? Have you saved it?
The situation at the moment is that we're waiting now a response from the decision makers in Stormont. Now it's ultimately up to the executive to decide on that, and where I be coming from on this is that if the executive can come together and make a decision to save the teacher training colleges, well, then surely our health service is just as important, if not more important. So why, there's a need then, why can they not come together and decide, well, let's look at the crisis that we have in our healthcare system, and let's look at how we can, keep services in places like Downpatrick and Daisy Hill.
Well, certainly Stephen Farry was implacable in his determination, in his he was not going to change his mind.
Yeah.
But his mind was changed by public pressure.
Yes, and the executive decided to intervene, to the best of my knowledge. Is that you see, I would argue, Ronan, that this is just not a crisis within our system of healthcare. Although there are many services that are excellent and very well delivered, but in terms of taking local hospital services away from communities, it also represents a crisis within our political system. And it's because of the lack of accountability that exists. And you'll find now that people want a new type of politics, and this is something now that's been said among many people throughout all these islands. It's not just here; it's in the south, it's in England, Wales, Scotland. People are now looking for a new, more accountable type of politics, because, as you know, we also have. There's great problems in the healthcare system too in England, and so
most of the wheels. There's at least certainly two of the wheels are off the wagon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe we're down to the final wheel.
Yes.
So you're blowing a whistle at this stage and saying the whole root and branch has to change.
Absolutely, it has to change, and. So this is where there's a need for change all around, and but you see, there's also areas in terms of health service governance where changes could be made, Ronan. Now, I have studied. Obviously, I'm not a medical man, but I've studied the issue in some depth, and I've read the writings of Dr. John Robb.
How is John? Is he a friend?
Yes, John's a friend of mine, and John.
Is he still involved in the New Ireland movement?
Yes.
Is it still
very well at the moment now?
Forward?
They from time to time they maybe organise talks and
conferences and the like.
Yeah, but John has been a great advocate of the small acute hospital, because he was a surgeon himself.
Yes.
And
he's written about it in your Orange book.
Yes. So long live the small acute hospital.
Yes. So what's coming out of that? What's the line of influence that he's counting on?
Well, I think one of the most important arguments coming from it, Rowan, is that improvements in medical technology actually can be used to decentralize services. It doesn't, one doesn't have to say, now we've got all this great technology, we've all these improvements in healthcare, therefore we have to centralize everything. I think that argument has to be challenged and challenged strongly, because in fact it could be argued in many cases the complete opposite, and it actually should give local hospitals more autonomy. So
I know what you're saying, and I love the feel-good factor, the warm glow of the kind of hospital equivalent to the corner shop, if you like.
Yes.
Those were good days.
Yes.
But maybe, just maybe, there's a betterness in moving forward and changing.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Because Wells, the minister, sat where you're sitting.
Yes.
2 months ago.
Okay.
He said he had studied the science. Hand on heart, Rowan, I've studied the science. And the science is telling me that as long as we retain the initial intervention in clot removal, the injection that deals with the clot, then after that 2 or 3 days of doing that, better science applies at Craigavon. Is he wrong?
I would maintain, Rowan, that you see, we have an outstanding stroke unit at Daisy Hill Hospital. So there's no, the science has been argued by people like Dr. John Robb, who was one of Europe's top surgeons.
Yes.
And his claims are that the future of healthcare, you mentioned but should we change, or is there a need for change? John argues, and I would argue, that the future of healthcare is in the whole philosophy of small is beautiful.
Yeah.
That these large centralised hospitals. You see, this is a very important point, Rowan. John has maintained through his own studies as a surgeon and his own research that over nearly 80% of all acute medical procedures can be carried out in the local community hospital. And there's only the remainder that where you need the super specialist care. Now I think that's a very important fact, that because it shows that the super specialists are important. You do need their care, obviously, but they're only in that minority of cases, you know.
See, the other point, okay, whatever medical science is about, that's all. Let that be for a minute.
Yeah.
But there is the additionality of the medical well-being that comes from a person who is chronically, critically ill,
Yes.
being cared for in the bosom of his or her community, in the presence of familiar sights and sounds.
Yes, yes, yes.
Where neighbours and family can come up and call and see them easily.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
But surely to goodness, there's an almost unmeasurable health benefit in that.
You're 100% right, Rowan, and you know, as has been said many times, you know, for anyone that has unfortunately had the tragedy of having a stroke, that having their family near them is a very important part of the recuperative process. Yes. You know, so yes, definitely, you know, and also, you know, I think this is a very important point because. You know, quite often this term, you know, the money has been bandied about, is that we don't have enough money to do this, that and the other. You know, but there are many changes that could be made even without a lot of money. You know, for example, in how our health service is governed, in terms of giving frontline staff a say in things, giving them more influence on how services are delivered, you know, because you take a nurse that's working in the front line or a doctor, you know, they can see things that need to change. Yeah. Are they being listened to, Rowan? You know, well,
the evidence is they're not.
They're not.
Because we saw at the end of last year with all of the grinding to a halt of A&E and the various hospitals.
Absolutely. Yes.
Crises after crisis.
Yes. Yes.
And we almost ran out of a health service.
Absolutely, you know, and then, you know, it's been well documented in the press, Rowan. There seems to be a culture now for many medical staff, frontline staff, are afraid to speak out, are afraid to say, you know, this needs to change, or I think this is a better way of doing this. So, would that cost any money just to listen to people?
Listen to people, and as you say, there is the belief that they're not being listened to, and I think that's probably demonstrable in a number of cases, you know.
And the patients as well, Ron, to listen to patients and their families.
Absolutely.
You know.
Where the Saturday, is this Saturday coming, is it? No, it's the Saturday, following 28th.
The 28th, Rowan. And so we're encouraging people from the whole community to come out.
You want to listen to this, guys. Yeah.
Please, everyone from the whole community, right from Down District, Newry and Mourne, as far away as Kilkeel, from all aspects of the district, please, the whole community, all traditions, all walks of life, please come out and support the stroke unit in Newry on the 28th of March. And the procession will take place earlier in the day, the early afternoon. I think it's around 12 o'clock, so it'll not clash with any other sporting fixtures on TV or anything. So
I think they should come.
They should come, yeah.
I think what's coming out of this, and I thank you for it.
Yep.
Up until this interview, I have heard the beating of an old familiar drum. Give us because we want, we must keep because we like.
Yes.
Now you've taken it further. This man has taken it to a different dimension for me here this morning, and he has put an emphasis on a different kind of future based on the medical knowledge of John Robb, the great surgeon. And it's challenging, essentially, Jim Wells, the health minister's view, that the science points right the whole way into the very heart of Craigavon Hospital. That's not necessarily the case. Neither is it necessarily the case that the ball is over the wall, that we can still pull it back.
That's right.
We can still deal with it.
That's
and you
right.
do that by coming out on the 28th of this month of March.
Yes.
So please remind the folk of just where they come and what they do.
The procession, as far as I know now, the people will gather in the centre, Newry city centre, and then we'll be making our way up to Daisy Hill Hospital, where there will be there's only going to be about 4 speakers. The speeches will be very short, Ronan.
Yeah.
And the people who will be mainly the people whose voices will be heard will be the people who are out on the day. That'll be eloquence enough. That'll speak.
You got 20,000 at Downpatrick for
Yeah.
Down Hospital.
We got over 20,000. Yeah, it was magnificent, you know. And
It's down to you guys.
so it's down to you. And I just would like to make the point that this is going to be a long battle, and it's also about putting forward the case, the business and clinical case for a new hospital at Newry, a new local acute hospital, and you know. In terms of population now, Rowan, this argument that has been argued to, you know, what about, you know, we're thinking that the nearest hospital to Newry, outside of Newry, is Drogheda on this side, on the other side of the border. So maybe a business case could be put up because, you know, for a new acute hospital, it would cater for this whole border region. You know, there are many people already from the south who would use Daisy Hill Hospital. So. You know, let's look at that, and a case could be put up for that as well. You know,
and I think, in fairness to Jim Wells, and I really want to say this, one of the first things he said when he took over the post, I would love to have a completely new hospital at Daisy Hill.
Yes.
He doesn't have the money to do it, but I mean that's a fish to fry on another day.
Yes.
He also said, again in here, that he wants to bring the level of funding to hospice up to what it is in England. And ultimately the aim is to provide full government funding for hospice. So to a certain extent we're pushing a kind of an open door with Wells.
Yes.
He's making a bit of sympathetic noise there.
Yes.
And maybe the same will happen with a stroke. He's not a stupid man. He will listen.
Yes.
So you guys get out, and certainly your 20,000 that they got at Downpatrick, and we take it from there.
Okay.
I want to thank you for coming in.